Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. Next up is the first interview with Wanjiku Nyasaka. Karibu sana. That was your video we were watching, and it happens to be your very first music video.
Yes, it is.
Let's talk about your experience in that music world after singing for such a long time. Before we get into the background of who you are, how was it? How was your first experience exposing yourself and revealing your gift to the world?
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for having me. I think my first video, I was very anxious, but I thank God for support of my family and my friends. My husband and my friends and my sisters were all there to help me in this journey, especially on the day of making this video. It was my first video. I didn't know what to expect. My video producer was also very helpful, Steve Mugo, and he helped me to calm the nerves. But I got the cue and I was able to actually do it. I couldn't believe it, but I thank God. Of course, it took a lot of prayer to help me overcome the anxiety and the nerves. Yeah, but it ended up.
But like I was telling you earlier, when I look at that music video, I see a seasoned artist. I don't see someone who's just starting. Lakini vile tumesema ukiona God, lazima ujichoche.
Yes, lazima ujichoche. Ujiamini.
So now let's talk about you and coming up in terms of gospel and the ministry. Let's talk about your upbringing. Were you surrounded by, people who were ministers? Who inspired you?
Thank you. Actually, I was inspired by my mom. My mom could sing. You would just wake up without being told to wake up, because my mom would just wake up early in the morning and start singing, and she would sing these Kigosho songs, and I thought to myself, wow, I think she can sing. She just doesn't realize that she can sing, but I grew up, of course, loving music, and of course hearing my mom sing all over the house. I ended up actually picking that. My mom was also a born-again Christian from early age, since I was a young girl. So her trying to bring music into the house, like every time, we all found ourselves just singing. But I also think that this is something that was in us, not just me. I have other siblings also who sing. They haven't, just come out to bring out their gift and share their gift with the world. Mm-hmm. And I believe that sometime they will. But I felt that God specifically called me into singing ministry, and I started singing even before I did my videos, until I thought that these songs that God has given me and has deposited into my spirit, I need to share them out with the world. It's not a message for me, but it is a message for many other people out in the world that need to hear my songs and the message that God has given me, to encourage them and maybe to give them hope every day.
Let's talk about the process of creating your songs, especially the songwriting process, because I believe when it comes to ministry, it's something inspired. So let's talk about your process. How did you come up with the lyrics to this one, the first one?
Yeah, thank you, Mike. You won't believe it. I wrote this song more than 10 years ago. Actually, more than even before I got married. I wrote the chorus of this song, but I did not pursue it further. But I feel that God deposited that gift in me, and that those words were inspirational, but I didn't take it up until later on, during COVID. Thanks to COVID, I decided to actually, I felt that if I die today, at my deathbed, I'll be miserable, because I did not fulfill what God called me to do. And I felt like I had let God down. So I said, I am going to just walk into a studio and just do what God asked me to do many years ago that I haven't been able to do. By that time, I had started, of course, coming up with the verses, and God just kept giving me these verses and the words to these songs. I didn't even sit at one point to write the song. By the time I was going to the studio, I had the song in my head and I could sing it from the beginning to the end. So I think God inspired me to write these words, and I wrote them out of His inspiration.
Before we continue with the second part, there's something I love to do, especially with the gospel ministers. There are people who are watching us right now, enjoying their cup of tea, their cup of porridge. And I would love if you could, bless us with a few lines from your song.
Okay. Do you want me to sing from Palme, the first song? Or
The very first song. I had a connection with that
the
one.
first song,
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah. Okay.
Yesu ni mfalme, Yesu ni mfalme, Yesu ni mfalme, Yesu ni mfalme wa wafalme, Yesu ni mfalme, Yesu ni mfalme, Yesu ni mfalme, Yesu ni mfalme wa wafalme. Njoni nyote tumwimbie huyu mfalme. Njoni nyote tumwabudu huyu mfalme. Njoni nyote tumwimbie huyu mfalme. Njoni nyote tumsujudu huyu mfalme. Yeye ni mfalme, mfalme wa wafalme. Oh, yeye ni mfalme, mfalme wa wafalme. Yeye ni mfalme, mfalme wa wafalme. Yeye ametawala. Huyu Yesu ametukuka. Yesu yeye ni mfalme wa wafalme.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that blessing. If you want more of that, you know what to do. Wanjiku Nyasaka is the name of the YouTube channel.
Yes, it is.
Make sure you go there, subscribe, and support her music. The gospel music industry, we've seen it's come across some controversy lately. There are people who are pointing fingers here and there.
Yeah.
Did you have any, I won't call it fear, let me call it hesitation. Did you have any hesitation to say, okay, now let me just join in?
I believe that when God calls you, God calls you individually. He calls you as a person. And I believe that those other gospel ministers have been called by God. Maybe sometime, maybe on our way we lose it a bit, but we are all human. And I believe that with time, even those ones that have lost the way will always come back. But I believe that they have a specific calling. And I joined even in the midst of the storm, and because I know that God had deposited a message in me. Without looking at the others, I was concentrating on my race, what God has called me to do. And I believe that the music ministry is not dead. And like somebody said, I don't call it the gospel industry. I call it the gospel ministry. Yeah, because you're ministering through song. We have evangelists and we have preachers who are spreading the word of God through evangelism and teaching. But we are also ministers because God has called us to spread the word of God through singing. So I consider myself a minister because that is the way I fulfilled the Great Commission, where we are all called to be disciples and to make disciples.
Let me ask you this then. Do you feel like there's a divide in the gospel ministry? Do you feel like there are others who consider themselves artists and not ministers?
I think it is the way you bring yourself out there. And if I call myself an artist, then they understand what they mean by artist. I cannot define that for them. But there are also those ones who call themselves gospel minister. I can speak to that, but I am not sure I can speak to being a gospel artist because I'm not one.
You kwanza tuweke kando.
Yes, I am speaking as a gospel minister, so I can speak to gospel ministry, but I'm not able to speak about being a gospel artist because I am not one.
Now, in terms of the ministry, let's talk in terms of money now.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy, but sometimes when it comes to gospel, people tell you it is a ministry, so they don't even give you like a token for fuel, and you arrived at the venue, you know, you prepared yourself for the event, maybe perhaps you brought in instrumentalists. What do you have to say about that particular
I believe in my journey. For example, I'll speak for myself. I mean, my music hasn't paid. And I'm aware that it may not pay for another, even maybe months or years to come. But because God has called me, I have come with the understanding that He will provide for everything that I need. I don't know how, but somehow He has. And it's not cheap to do music, because, I mean, just doing a video is costly enough, especially if you're going to do a good production. So I believe that I would urge that the churches and these forums where the ministers go to minister, that it's upon them, to be able to be, I mean, even the Bible talks about being hospitable. Let's be hospitable to these people so that they can spread the gospel, and let them also eat from the gospel, because that is what, you want to spread the gospel, but at the same time, you want to have food on the table. But I would say that for me, that is not the driving factor. I want to be able to do what God has called me. I want to be able to minister, and I believe that all these other things, God shall sort them out for me. My next song actually talks about seeking God and His righteousness, and all these other things shall be added to you. So I believe that God will add all those things to us as ministers if we have the right intentions to serve God. There's no way God is going to give you a responsibility and not give you the ability to do it. So we just need to stick to what God has called us to do. The rest, God is going to take care of us. Whether He's going to put a conviction to those people that we go to minister to be able to be a blessing to you, I believe it will happen. We've seen many ministers do it, and they have made it, and they are not there, doing all these things to just to get money. They are doing it for the gospel, and there's so many of them that are doing it. Right now, we are concentrating on the ones that are not doing the right thing, or we feel that are not doing the right thing, but we've forgotten that there's so many gospel ministers that are doing what God has called them to do.
What God has called them to do.
Yes.
Before we exit, I know who is your pastor, by the way?
Oh, my pastor is Bishop Gibson Anduvate of ICC Nairobi International Christian.
What role did he play when it comes to your music?
He's very encouraging. Actually, for some time I've not been on the worship team, and he's like, I think I need to see you on the pulpit. I mean, that is what God has called you to do. I mean, why don't you do it? But for some time I haven't been in the worship team because of COVID, and before that school, and after that baby. But he's really been encouraging me. Just a few Sundays back, he told me, I really want to see you on the pulpit.
Aside from Bishop, do you feel like there's another person mwenye amekusaidia sana in terms of encouraging you to do music?
Yes, there are many people who have encouraged me.
Now, those particular people, I want you to talk to them.
Okay. So I want to say thank you so much. First of all, to my husband, Mr. Nyasaka, who has given me the drive. Sometimes I'm like, I don't think I'm called for this, and she's there just trying to push me and telling me, you can do it, because there's so many things that I'm doing right now. I am a wife, I am a music minister, I am also employed, all those things, and he's been there trying to get me. I also have a group of friends who are very encouraging, and they keep telling me, go mama, and thank you so much for the push and that they keep giving me when I feel like giving up. I also have a friend of mine who is also a gospel minister. She's called Caroline Bright. You will love her songs, by the way. Oh, she held my hand. I mean, I had this song, I didn't know how to start, and she held my hand and she said, girl, you can do it. This is what you do. This is what you do. So she showed me around the gospel space, and out of that I was able to come up with my first video, and now my second video, now going into the third video. So I want to say thank you so much to Caroline Bright.
And we also want to say thank you to you, because your story is very encouraging. Like you said, you've always had the gift within you, but eventually you took this opportunity to now begin your journey within the gospel music ministry.
Yes.
So thank you very much. And as KBC, let's say, thank you for coming through. And remind people where they can find you, which is Wanjiku Nyasaka. That's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And of course on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Next up is a song by Wanjiku Nyasaka. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me.